is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 274. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@ksn@gmail.com. Christian, how's it going?
It's going great. We are go ahead.
Did you know it's the last day of June?
I did know it's the last day of June because, when I was in school, they taught me how many days are in each month. So I'm pretty good about knowing when they end.
It just doesn't compute with me.
What's funny is that we are obviously, if you know anything about our podcast, you would know that there was no way we were going to just do one episode on the new uniforms and move on. So we're back for more. And I'm very excited to talk about the new uniforms. And I didn't realize until like 5 minutes before we started recording for this occasion, we've both gone Stitcher Knots hats. I'm in a gray shirt. You're in a Canaveral blue shirt. So we're not doing the right thing here. This is not about uniforms, but what can you do?
Yeah, I feel we messed up. And I asked you, should I change? And you were like, no, I'll just point out the obvious. Now. Something else also obvious that we didn't point out last week when we were defending the relevance of the Pegasus to UCF was that right above our heads on this screen, it says the name of our podcast. We named our podcast after it. So we forgot to point that out last week. So we're doing great. And I say all of this to, I guess, introduce our guest for today's podcast. Not that I don't enjoy talking to you, but I've been more excited about this episode than some of the others we've had during what has felt like a pretty long summer already. We've got the Senior Associate AD for #content, Eric DeSalvo, on the podcast for the second time, for the first time since August of 2022. Eric, how are you?
Wow, it's been that long. Fellas, it's good to see you. To my surprise, you're both wearing Knots gear, and I'm the one rocking UCF. It's summertime for my fellow parents out there. As Danny Go says, summer is for chillin'. So I'm wearing my Quicksilver homemade shirt with a little iron on. And as you can see, I've got sunshine behind me, and we've got the old logo down there. Shout out to the old seat from the Citrus Bowl days.
We're somehow across three people. We have everything but the current Stack UCF logo.
No. Come on.
Oh, it's on the sun. Excuse me. It is on the sun. We're
From the recruiting set in 22, if y'all remember Bounce House Weekend back then.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I at least have the recent helmets. If you're watching on YouTube, I guess we've been referencing all these visual aspects of everything.
Yes.
And our audio listeners are just mad and screaming. But yeah, I do have the recent helmets represented, so we're good there.
Oh yeah, we're crushing it. So let's go ahead and dive right in. UCF has revealed new uniforms. I am predictably in love with them and think they're awesome, but let's go ahead and talk some more about them. So Eric, just right off the bat, the last uniforms lasted, I guess it was 3 years, right? It was 22, 23, 24. Correct. We're going into this refresh. When did the talk first start of moving into this new refresh with these new uniforms?
Yeah, as we went every season, probably after we got the ones in 22, we started talking about the next ones because that's what we do because we're sickos. But no, it really got going after the 23 season going into 24. We knew we were in the last year of that chassis because we needed to update to the Nike Vapor Fuse. And that was a much wanted move up to that chassis because it's different material. It fits better in the shoulders. It's got that nice little V that helps it look a little more dynamic for especially a school like UCF who likes to work with lines and stuff like that and be fast. And so the initial conversation, we worked with our old former graphic designer Josh Perdico. Shout out to Josh. He lives in Iowa now. And reached out to Josh on July 11th and said, "Sup, you up?" No. Said, "Josh, we are looking to redo our uniforms. You did our 23 space uniforms, the Canaveral Blues, who you guys talked about last week. Guys, we released that on like a 2-game losing streak. The losing streak reached 5. Those uniforms were just – I was going on a bye-week vacation, and I was like, babe, we're getting crushed right now. They always ask for blue. They were getting crushed. And I was sad. We're in the Knoxville airport that we're going to go to the mountains, and I'm like, I can't believe the Blues getting panned. It's insane. And I said quickly, it's all about results. I know that we're in a results-driven business, so that's okay. But so last year we released them after TCU. Big brains over here. But no, Josh did the 23 space uniforms, and so being a big uniform guy, we reached out to him and he's like, absolutely. And it's like, what are you thinking? And the first thing we talked about was the numbers. And so we knew as we moved into our United font, which I still love our United font, it's just, you know how an artist goes, like you have to grow in your art, right? And when you make a move from a drastic number that everybody associates with an era, like we talk about those eras, and you go to a new one, yeah, you're going to have some kicking and screaming in that, and that's okay. But I think we landed on a number that we're very happy with because we stacked together the 2016 through 21 uniform number and the 22 through 24 uniform number and said, okay, let's marry these. But as we saw trends going, we're like, to make these numbers truly pop, let's bring the drop shadow and tie in another era with Dante Culpepper. And to be able to do that, like, I truly hope we see a run on block shadows coming back, drop shadows for numbers coming back, because my goodness, it works. And I think it will work for like most schools. And, you know, inspiration behind that is when you see the San Francisco 49ers run out that 90s jersey, and you're like, that is phenomenal. North Carolina did it a couple of years ago. BYU did it last summer. We were already working on it when BYU released theirs, and I told my guy, I was like, just wait for next year. But that's how it got started there. And so, yeah, production, you know, from design aspects comes in July. And then as the season starts going, we finalize the different pieces of the uniform. So that's where it started, was in July.
2021 Temple.
2021 Temple. That was a white with the gold numbers black.
Yeah,
with the script logo.
Script Knights. Mikey King 5 touchdown game. I didn't know we were throwing in surprises, Bailey. I like that.
It was yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Chris.
Don't worry about it. I do want to hear about the new shoulder design. I know you talked about the numbers, and you actually were just talking about the 2023 space uniforms and working with the designer on that.
Yep.
The shoulder design, just going to the Pegasus wings rather than the full Pegasus and kind of the new texture. Can you talk to us about that decision and kind of what went into that?
Definitely wanted to move forward. Like we talk about when we've said it so many times, like the uniforms we have weren't broken. We're just advancing the looks of them. And I knew there were pieces of that 23 space uniform. Like when we designed that and we saw how the oversized wing hit, there's a picture of like RJ Harvey scoring the first touchdown in the game that I think got called back. But the way the shoulder hit in the image, and Oklahoma State was wearing orange, white, black. And I'm like, this is one of the greatest uniform contrasting looks that we've seen. Like I said the other day, though, BYU versus UCF is, in my opinion, still from last year, the best uniform straight combination game. But the way that shoulder hit, I was like, it just looked, and I think we put up 45 points, so we looked fast. But like, I don't know, the way it was like, that's an aspect we can move forward with. Now, if you're looking at the shoulders, you might say, okay, all you did was change that. No, we changed the way that it was sublimated in the past. In 2016 through 2021, the shoulder that looked like kind of like a vinyl look right to the Pegasus on there was screen printed on to the jersey. Well, in 22, Nike did sublimated, which meant it was into the fabric. Well, that causes it obviously to not have that shine like the ones in 16 to 21 did. And so that was a change we wanted to go back to. We like that look. It was sleek. It was more futuristic. And then we're like, okay, if we do the oversized wing, it'll hit even harder because it'll be a bigger imprint on the shoulder of just the wings. And so that was our thinking there, is move it forward, but also do it with the screen print so that it pops when the light hits it.
Had UCF not won 45-3, and you talk about the results-based business, do you think you guys still go with the Pegasus wings from that one?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to win the space game regardless. So
Sure.
I think we would have. We would have seen it, but like it's one of those things where if you're not making huge adjustments, what small adjustments can you make to move them forward? And if you just went back to the Pegasus being fully on the shoulder, I mean, what does the Pegasus even mean to UCF anymore?
Oh my god!
Shout out, props. I texted him the other day when we put him on blast from the content account. I was like, I'm about to burn you real quick here.
You had to.
But we wanted to move it forward. That's why we did that way.
I'm kind of curious about, because that's part of the process that always fascinates me, because like these uniforms, obviously we love them, and they still feel like what's become that like iconic UCF look. When you're designing these and talking about different elements, how do you toe that line between wanting to do something new and move it forward, but still keeping the core identity and not getting like too off the tracks?
You also have to adhere to Nike's guidelines when it comes to these uniforms. And so in order to utilize their top of the line material, you have to stay within collar, shoulders, the numbers. And the numbers are, those are all 3D. Those are screen printed, sublimated numbers, like those aren't just stock things, right? They have to cut those a specific way. And so you have to fall within their template, and they're getting better. So last year's space jersey, I'm sure you could tell, it was a fully sublimated jersey. For the first time, I think in college, they let somebody go fully sublimated. And so that's how you got that gradient effect, which looked pretty cool the way it all played out. A unique take on a space uniform, but then obviously had the number that went on top of it. So you have the different material on there. So you have to fall within those guardrails that Nike gives you in order to maximize. And so we knew we wanted the TV numbers back, right? Like as we did these recruit shoots, and you do the shoots where the guys are like shoulders showing towards the camera and helmet down low, it just like looked so naked up here. And you're like, man, we really want to bring those TV numbers back. So that was another design choice that we saw. Okay, we wanted to streamline the look a little bit more going into 22. Now we know, okay, we've seen it both ways. We prefer the TV number way.
2019 FAU.
Oh man, that's white pewter.
One of my favorites ever. This is freaking me out. Bailey's like, I'm actually I'm curious about this, Bailey. I'm curious how many of these you would have known without looking them up, but that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, that's not the game.
You spend enough time with me that I expect you to know all of them by memory, but
I know. I know.
All right, Eric, now I have to ask the hard-hitting journalism questions.
Here we go.
And I'm going to rope this into one to capture both ends of the fan base.
Okay.
Was there ever any talk of a gold jersey?
All right, good. Glad we got that out of the way.
All right.
That's why we had you on.
Are you sure that answer was definitive enough? I feel like people are going to be able to turn the tone of that no and come up with a way that you actually mean yes, they are coming.
Brian Wild Bill Peterson will. I honestly was surprised about the number of people who continued to like carry that torch forward. You can always count on Brian's tweets, no doubt. It just felt like there was a growing number. And look, our guy RBJ said it pretty eloquently. He goes, has anybody ever looked good in all gold? And the answer is no. And the answer also is we've been down this road with all golds, and not all golds, but like, dude, 2012 versus UTEP, guys, Blake Bortles had to wear white, gold. Latavius Murray's final game in the Bounce House was a white helmet, a gold jersey, and gold pants. I am so sorry, Tay, that happened to you. You will not make other people have to go through that. No, but I will say this. Gold has made a change in our color. As you probably can recognize, when we put those jerseys next to each other, you're like, that gold looks different in the 2025 uniforms compared to every other iteration. Why? Every other iteration was Nike's Vegas gold. Okay, that's how they call that shade of gold. Your Wake Forests, Purdue, right? All those black and gold schools. Vanderbilt used it for a long time, but the switch came for us, and moving forward, we're utilizing Nike Club Gold. And so that is it's a digital color by Nike. And so it's not everywhere yet, whereas Vegas Gold is a thread. So it can be a lot more places. So the Nike Club Golds, I believe I'm speaking truth on this, is a sublimated color. So they are digitally making this shade of gold. And so, but we're going to move forward with it. And that's not just for football. It's for all sports. So you'll continue to see that color make its way into other uniforms. And I believe us and Vanderbilt are the only schools right now who are doing it. So if you're curious how it looks, you can look up, I believe Vanderbilt made the switch in 2023 on their football uniforms. And that's why you saw a stark difference between that gold in these new uniforms and the gold in previous iterations. And so I look forward to us being able to implement it in more ways. It will not be in a jersey. If someday that happens, awesome. It's just definitely not right now.
I'm just gonna the headline of this episode is gonna just be gold jerseys, Eric DeSalvo. Someday that happens, in quotes with no context. Is that new gold, the club gold? Is that the gold of the baseball jerseys that dropped this past year?
That is correct. So if you thought you had seen it, it made its debut. And what did you guys think of that? What did you think of those uniforms?
Take it away, Bailey.
I liked them. I know they were controversial in some ways, but I was a bigger fan of them than some.
Yeah, I think it's the best gold has looked for UCF in a while. I am still unfortunately anti-gold jersey in all sports.
Very diplomatic.
It's baseball. They have to. I'm being as diplomatic as I can. It's baseball.
There's a little shine to it for baseball. I don't know how it would look in all the other materials, but hey, I agree. It's the best gold can look, and so for baseball, I think it's a pun intended home run. But I don't think it would be a touchdown for UCF football.
I liked how definitive it was. The only problem I have, I don't know if Wild Bill is a podcast, like if he listens to the podcast audio version or if he watches on YouTube, but if he watches on YouTube, he will have seen the old seat cushion behind you that's gold. He would see the UCF sun, and he's already probably tweeted at you and us about that. So before we even got to ask the question, he's probably already drawn some conclusions from your background. But I do want to ask, kind of going off of that, as well as the teaser that we saw on the uniform release day toward the end of the day, is there anything at all you can tell us about the potential release of other alternates?
All gold. Oh, sorry. So I will say July 7th is going to be a widely celebrated holiday in the college football world and the video game world. At noon that day, you will see a game release, and there's probably some goodies in the uniform selection area of that game when released. It's not gold jerseys, I will tell you that. But yes, there is some pieces to come that just aren't physically here yet. And so that's why we really focused on our core uniforms for debut. That's why we stressed the word core. And I saw a good amount of people who put that together pretty quickly, which I appreciate seeing.
Most would.
Yeah, and obviously we wanted to share out that, there is a newer iteration of a uniform coming. So that's why you saw that teaser at the end of the day.
2023 Boise State.
Oh, go white.
That was a layup, Bailey.
Yeah, you know.
Big game gold.
So we talked a little bit at the beginning about the process of coming up with these new ones and when those conversations started. Obviously, there was the refresh a few years ago, and they were used for 3 years. Do you kind of foresee a similar lifetime for this set, or is there anything on that?
Haven't talked about life expectancy for this run of uniforms yet. I'm not sure what is in Nike's future for like their chassis for uniforms. I will say we're we're in a much better position in terms of like being a Power 4 school with Nike than we were in the past. And so, and never a bad deal when Scott Frost comes back and his relationship with Phil Knight and Nike overall. And so, but I don't know what a run time would be on this iteration yet.
Gotcha. Christian, you have anything else?
I have one quick question before Bailey derails us with space. Does Scott Frost like the uniforms?
He does. I can confirm that. This is a promo for our upcoming episode of Rise that is being worked on right now. There's plenty of uniform talk in there for the Junkies. I actually just had a call and was like, "Are you cool for like the whole second half of the episode's uniform talk?" I'm like, we've got a lot of sickos out there, so yeah, I am. Yeah. But he is. We handed him a jersey, and he appreciated it. And as you all know, I said we worked on these in July, right? Mm-hmm. Did not know Scott Frost was going to be there in December, and so I laugh whenever I look what Scott just did, man. New uniform. I mean, shout out to Frost being back, but it's very fitting that he's back, and we are tying in eras of UCF football, and so it all was very serendipitous is maybe the word. I don't know.
I love it. 2017 Austin P.
Oh man, white, anthracite white.
I like it. Yep. Now I might derail everything to space a little bit. This year's space game being against Houston, obviously there was the 2019 game that was a space game against Houston as well. Has there been any thought internally about making this a dual event with Houston? I know how I feel about it, and I know some people have debated it over the years. Is there anything that you've discussed at all?
You know, it's a conflict that we want to keep civil. But we, if anything ever comes of it, and if it's not like it's in 2023 in that game against Houston at home, we had the coin toss go into space, and schools are working together on that. And I know there's been some quotes about UCF and Houston. I think if you ever see something come of it, just like Bob Diaco tried to say, I wanted a trophy game between UCF and UConn. I didn't want a rivalry. I wanted a trophy game. I have my own thoughts to how that whole went down in 2014-15. My mind, they're at the coaches' convention, and Bob Diaco explains what he thought of this, and Joe Drilly goes, yeah, whatever. He takes that as he said, yes, let's go. And then we see a tweet on a random day in the end of May 2015. I'm on vacation and I get a heads up, do not engage with this tweet. Oh my God. What tweet are we talking about? 200 days until the civil conflict.
Oh God.
But 10 years later, it's real. It's in the game. The trophy is in the game. The rivalry is in the game.
Yes. And so I think with Houston, if a trophy game ever came to fruition, awesome, right? There's a lot that makes sense. Now, the tough part is, as we have seen schedules in the schedule matrix, we don't play them every year. It worked out really well that we played them at home this year, and not only played them at home, but played them in November. So that's prime space game time. So look, us being on a standalone FS1 game on Friday night only leads to more space talk out there. And I would think a national audience would be like, why aren't these two doing this together? So we welcome it, because more space, the better, as you've seen other schools tap into their mysterious space roots from time to time.
All of a sudden.
I mean, shout out to my other alma mater, the NAU Lumberjacks. All of a sudden became the astronaut, not astronauts, that would have worked. Someone with the axe. But
I'm forgetting it now, but yeah.
Oh, man, it's crushing me. But, they tapped into their roots being a dark light city. It's beautiful up there. But yeah.
2016 Tulsa.
Oh, man, white, black, white. Senior night. DJ Killen's pick six. All went downhill after that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that wasn't one that – I don't even remember the pick six because I've blocked that entire
Chrome decals because the seniors got to pick the uniforms as well.
I was gonna say that was one of my favorites ever. That the Chrome Nighthead decal. And it was in Temple earlier the year. Speaking of that, we will get you out of here. I have one last question for you. It is the most important question I believe that I am capable of asking any human being who exists. What is your favorite UCF uniform combo of all time?
Oh man, if we're going, I heard you say it the other day that the Gasper LeBeau was your favorite look, and that honestly surprised the heck out of me. But at the same time, it didn't because of the way we have tweaked helmets to match jerseys well. Nothing hits harder than that reverse logo on gold and the black sword. So I honestly would put – I love the Peach Bowl look, but I love the iteration with the reverse logo. So I love the Boise State gold, white. And then
now I feel even worse about asking that one. Asked you one of your favorite combos or your favorite.
I mean, what a look, right? You wore that. Yeah. You wore that against all blue on blue turf.
Are they allowed to have blue turf? Are they allowed to wear blue on blue? Wow.
That's been a whole thing, man.
That was the week blank of UCF Tsunami versus War.
Yep.
That was 1-1. Guys, I'm way too online if you haven't picked that up, by the way.
That's why I feel like we could extend this and we could talk to you for another 2 hours and we'd have plenty more to ask you. But we very much appreciate having you on. We want to have you on. I want to make it more than fewer than 3 years in between.
I can't believe it. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised to find out that was that long ago. But thank you so much, Eric, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate having me.
That was Eric DeSalvo at Eric DeSalvo. Have to give him the plug. He is way too online, as Christian, as am I, as is most of UCF's fan base. So
I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, none of that went over your head. And we're all in this together.
That's what's kind of scary about, I think, our audience for the most part is a lot of our audience is way too online. This is the podcast for the way too online people, which we appreciate, but it's kind of scary. But that was fun. I enjoyed talking to Eric. I really could we came into this all right, we'll talk to him the first half and we'll talk recruiting finally for the second half of the show. But I really wanted to ask him 10 more things. We could have done an entire hour with him.
I know.
But
so it sounds like he definitely left the door open for gold jerseys. So everyone keep an eye out.
I loved that answer specifically because he was quick with the no, very definitive. Then he was talking about the new gold. And then I'm like, is he kind of veering into leaving the door open? And then at the end, he's like, but not a jersey. And I'm looking forward to implementing it more, but not a jersey itself. So
I don't need to get on my high horse about this for the 50 billionth time that was since we've had this podcast. But what he said is spot on. It's guys, just show me an example. Just show me one football jersey in gold that doesn't look bad, and I'll change my opinion. But there isn't one.
It doesn't work. Yeah, I also appreciated the random UCF uniform games that I could throw at him. If you couldn't have told by now, Christian, there was some collusion behind that. That wasn't just me that came up with that idea. There was some collusion going on.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet I know who the collusion was, and it was Trace Trilko from Sons of UCF, wasn't it?
Incorrect. Wrong.
Really? Okay, because he's been discussing throwing those. I had a whole conversation with Trace a couple weeks ago because he said we should do a segment where I ask you a game like that, and you have 10 seconds to figure out who it is. And I had to explain to him, you don't understand. I know them. That's not going to be interesting for anybody to watch. But okay, interesting.
It wasn't him.
Know who it is. Now I definitely know who it is. But okay.
Who is it?
I'm not saying it.
Okay. Well, now after the podcast, I'm going to ask you who you think it actually is to see if you really do know, or if you're just because you were very definitive that it was Trace. And I did think about that earlier. I remembered earlier that Trace did have that conversation with you, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is actually kind of funny that we're doing this now. But rest of the podcast, the long-awaited recruiting podcast that we've talked about doing for, I believe, 3 months.
Sounds about right.
We thought about it around March, and it's now June 30th, probably July 1st as you're listening to this. But we talked a little bit last week about some of the updates, a few more commits last week. There have been 2 more since that podcast. 3-star defensive back Amarion Queen committed last week, and then today 3-star running back Arthur Lewis flipped from Liberty to UCF. He had been committed to Liberty since March, so he flipped today. I'm excited about that one especially, but as of right before this podcast, 247 hasn't been updated with the rankings. Before Arthur Lewis, UCF was ranked 13th in the Big 12, 65th overall. On3's rankings are updated with Arthur Lewis's commitment, and that has UCF 11th in the Big 12 and 59th overall. So, Christian, your general thoughts on where things are right now, because it's been a big topic of conversation.
Yeah, my general thoughts are that USF's class is 20 spots higher than UCF's class.
Ooh, I did not know that. I didn't look at the rest of the list, and I don't like that. How?
Now that I've said that really alarming thing, let's break it down. UCF has 13 commits right now. USF has 32 commits.
Oh, okay. That makes so much more sense.
Rankings are very weighted by number of players in their class. The average rating of USF's players in their class is 85.02. UCF's is 86.04. So UCF has... I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what the hell's going on at USF where they think they need 32 high school players in a class. I was baffled by that. But yeah, I just like throwing that stat out there. I just wanted to give the entire
I didn't know that was my genuine reaction because I did not pay attention to like the rest of the list outside the Big 12, and that did scare me before I realized, okay, they might just have a bigger class.
I feel like where I'm at with the recruiting class, and this is just not a helpful place to be when you're a podcaster and people are looking to you for like information or analysis, is I feel like I oscillate day to day on whether I'm either okay with it or in complete panic about it. I just don't know where I'm at, to be honest, because the truth is we knew, right? When the Gus the Gus leaving to go be, that's just how it's wired in my brain. The Gus leaving to be the offensive coordinator at Florida State happened. We all I don't think anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, no matter who the coach was going to be, I was not sitting here thinking, yeah, recruiting's going to stay like this. It's going to continue to be at this level where it's near the top of the Big 12. And there were a couple reasons I thought that. The first was I thought that UCF was probably going to approach things differently because that wasn't working. And I also thought that was a very Gus-specific thing where it was very important to go for the highest-rated players that they could. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be clear. I don't want a revisionist history. I don't ever think the problem with the Gus era was going after those guys. I think the problem was then not giving them a chance to play, was I think where things went wrong.
Yeah, over-recruiting them. Or recruiting over them, I mean.
I didn't think it would fall off to this degree, where I imagined like they would go to like 8th, 9th in the Big 12, be more to middle of the pack. Recruiting near the bottom of the conference has been a surprise. And I don't want to act like there are no players that intrigue me in this class, because there are. But I guess I'm just still trying to square with, am I okay with this being how recruiting plays out for UCF now? I'm not sure what my answer is.
Yeah, my problem is honestly similar to yours, I think, in that when the Gus move happened, obviously they hired Frost. We knew that obviously they hired Frost after signing day in December. And so we knew that was kind of going to be a wash. And I think I kind of just, for a little while after he was hired, thought, all right, like he's still getting his feet underneath him. He's also having to attack the portal. He's figuring out what they have here. Like it's going to be some time before we start to see like some really big wins on the recruiting trail. And so I was like willing to be patient with it. And then I think we've gotten past that initial point of patience, and I'm somehow for some reason still extending it. I'm like, well, no, maybe 2026 is just kind of not a wash completely, because obviously there are going to be some good players in this class, but almost like we're talking about 2025 being year zero for Frost, almost like maybe this recruiting class 2026, not that it's a complete year zero for recruiting, but that it's kind of just establishing a base and a foundation for how things are going to be going forward. Now, that all probably is just me coping. And other than that, I don't really know what to say about where things are right now and where they appear to not be getting any better.
I think that's part of why it's so complicated to me, because right now, if I was here to spin this, like my job was, Christian, you got to spin this. And if my job was to spin it badly, I could very easily do that. If my job was to spin it in a good way, I could do that too. There is spin on how this is good. And the spin is that Scott Frost had exactly 2 classes. And we have talked about this a million times, but in case you haven't heard it, one of those million times, whatever.
We've talked about it that many times, but I love talking about it every time because of how impressive it is.
Because it's insane. It is pure insanity. Scott Frost had 2 classes at UCF. Those 2 classes included an astounding, unfathomable, should not have been possible number of high-level additions who shaped UCF football for the next half decade. And I really need to overstate that you are not supposed to recruit a class of guys and end up with this many guys who are not just like they panned out, but like we're anywhere from multi-year starter to superstar. Literally looking at the two classes, I still can't believe the list. Let's start with 20. I think this 20. Yeah. I don't remember this by class, whatever. We're just going to say some names. This came in 2 classes, guys. Jordan Johnson, Dredrick Nelson, Mackenzie Milton, Nate Evans, Adrian Killens, Tristan Hill, Bam Moore, Richie Grant, Gabe Davis, Marlon Williams, Otis Anderson, Sam Jackson, Cole Schneider, Antoine Collier, Kalia Davis. And I'll throw in Daryl Mack because he won a conference championship. That should not be possible to have done that in 2 classes. And listen, all of those guys significantly lower rated than the guys UCF is going after right now. Like, I want to be clear that while they've fallen back to earth, it's not like they've fallen back to G5. They're still recruiting significantly ahead of where they were recruiting in 2016, 2017, 2018. They're still going after different caliber of guys. So the biggest spin I can offer from positives is Frost's track record through 2 classes is so nuts. And I know this is a different staff, it's a different era. Don't we kind of just have to give him the benefit of the doubt until it doesn't work?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's that's almost like the theme of where I am with Scott Frost being back right now.
Right.
Like, it's just kind of like, it might not work out, but until it doesn't, it's 100% has my support. And I think it's just kind of, I got to trust where things are going. And I honestly think, I wonder part of it too, because like I said, I've been delaying my patience and kind of pushing it off. Like, all right, we'll see how things are for the 2027 class, whatever. I wonder how much of it, like rev share and all of that, is playing a part too, is kind of adjusting to another massive change in college football. And obviously every program is dealing with that, so you can't really use it as a crutch or an excuse, but programs are dealing with it differently. And some programs are choosing to deal with it one way, or others are going another way. I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it either.
No,
you would know better than I would.
No, yeah, this is a weird year because it is a transition year. And the way that a lot of programs dealt with it in college football was they skirted around the rules and double dipped. Like Ohio State is going to, the Wall Street Journal's writing about this, guys. We're getting into like the big leagues where, the money's gotten so big that this is hitting mainstream stuff. And Ohio State is apparently spending $35 million on their football roster this year. Keep in mind that no team is really, because of the rev share cap, going to be able to spend more than $15 million next year. But what like every team with money did was front loaded all these deals. So all these players got huge salaries before like they're all getting paid like today. Like it's like tomorrow, July 1st, if you're listening, this is probably the day you're listening. Rev share starts and there's that cap. So UCF did not do that. I don't believe UCF was in the financial position to do that, even if they wanted to. But I do think that that's where UCF is at, because Scott Frost talked about that. And this is where I get held up. This is where I get held up, man, is in spring, Frost talked about that they didn't want to spend significant money on guys in high school who you don't know if they're going to pan out. Because, like, guys, if you didn't read between the lines, spoiler alert, under Gus, a lot of the budget was going to the high school guys who then didn't play. And I totally get that. I totally get why they would want to course correct on that. But the part where I get worried when Frost talks about that, because he would say, we don't want to spend that. We want to spend that on retaining guys. We don't want to spend all these for these recruits. We want to develop guys and retain them. I have 2 problems with that. The first one is that to get guys worth retaining, you do have to get some good recruits, and that just flat out costs money in modern college football. And the other thing that is keeping me up at night is that Scott Frost and his staff were very good at development. They were very good at finding guys who were underrated, who were not superstars in the making, who were not, had all the hype, and developing them over a couple of years into being really good athletes. And all I can think about is Mackenzie Milton. And I think I even said this on a past podcast, is let's relive the 2016, 2017 era, except it's with the modern rules. Mackenzie Milton comes into UCF. He starts as a true freshman. It's up and down. The fan base is mad at him. There is no 2017 and 2018. Mackenzie Milton has said that publicly, that he was very close to transferring. And if their current rules are in place, almost certainly would have not stayed at UCF. So I'm just not sure just hang on and wait it out and we'll develop you works in modern college football, because I just don't know what the upside is at this point. Like, say that, let's talk about these guys in this class that they get in next year. It's like, in my head, in modern college football, what happens? They play as a true freshman and do really well, so they get poached. Or they don't play as a true freshman because they're not ready, so they transfer elsewhere. So I don't know if the Frost development strategy is as feasible in modern college football as it was back almost 10 years ago now.
It's probably not. The only way, and I just thought of this, so this is kind of a half-baked thought, but the only way we're sitting here maybe, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years from now and being like, okay, it all ended up working out, is they're taking some swings on who they think could be maybe their quarterbacks of the future in Dante Carr or Kane Archer,
Yeah.
One of those guys plays early, pans out, and they have the money, and they say, all right, now we got the guy in the door, and now we're going to allocate a lot of our funds to retaining him and making sure we have our quarterback, then it works. But you're kind of putting a lot on. I mean, it is at least two quarterbacks and not just one guy, but maybe that's part of it. I think it's maybe that I don't know. That feels more like explaining away the situation they're in and not the reason why they're in the situation.
It's funny you say explaining it away because you said that and it kind of sold me a little bit, which is probably bad. But I do want to talk about like some of the individual guys in this class. Like for the record, I love the Kane Archer pickup. I told you I was reading about it more the other day. He set a national record.
Yeah.
Completion percentage in a season. It's like 81.4%. Can anyone with a heartbeat explain to me why he is not at least a 4-star? I don't understand it. I don't get it. And he was talking about, Brandon Helwig interviewed him and he just took his official visit to UCF. He says he's shut down his recruitment. He's not really talking with other schools. He has no visits planned, which is kind of unusual in this day and age. Like even guys who are firmly committed still like to go, which more power to him, like go have fun, do all that stuff, whatever. But it sounds like he's not going to do that. He could be the future. And Dante Carr is another guy where, listen, the second I heard Scott Frost found this guy that no head coaches will even talk to and Frost is obsessed with him, I was like, get him in here right now. And one of the things that frustrates me about football sometimes, but as UCF fans know all too well, it's so much of it is about nailing the quarterback. And maybe there is an argument to be made that if Kane Archer ends up being the guy and he is another, I'm not going to say like another Milton type player, but another guy who is a star in college football, maybe that's when you start, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. You can't just like wait for that to happen to build a team around it, but I don't know. That does make and that you have that money to hold on to him and you do things from there. I don't know.
Yeah. That's like the only, I just thought of that just now. And it's how I could see this all paying off in a good way. Yeah. Other than that, I'm like, I don't know. And it doesn't have to be like, they're not married to this strategy. If they get this class in and it doesn't work out the way they thought, okay, maybe they're going to be like, all right, let's kind of reverse course a little bit. Not necessarily overcorrect, but be like, all right, we have to spend some money on high school guys because this seems like what's the term? Like zagging when everybody is zigging. I don't know if that's how it's said, but it seems like they're not doing what the majority of programs.
Well, I wouldn't say not the majority. It differs, right? Like different teams have, like look at Kansas State. Kansas State has 16 commits right now. They're 44th in the country. None of that. Their average rating is pretty similar to UCF's. No one's worried about Kansas State. No one's worried about that they're going to suddenly not be good or that they're not going to perform above that because all of those guys are from Kansas and Oklahoma and Missouri. It's a bunch of 3-stars who fit what they do. And if that's what Scott Frost wants to build, which he kind of is doing, they want to find a bunch of like guys they can develop who are speedy and quick and fit what they want to do. Maybe it doesn't matter as much what the recruiting class rank is. Maybe they can build what they want to build that way, and they can supplement through the portal like everyone does now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Kansas State I always find like as a ridiculous, like a crazy example for anything, just because like I don't know why, but it just works with Kansas State. Like everything works with Kansas State.
Yeah, because they know what they're looking for. They have a very specific type of player they go after, and it works for them, and it works over and over. But I think what's interesting is like what I'll be more curious about with Frost, and I don't know, it might necessitate it depending on how the recruiting class works out, but Gus going after highly rated guys and paying them money, not a thing I had a huge issue with. You can go listen back to many podcasts where I'm like, hell yeah, do more of that. What I had an issue with was let's add 20 guys in the portal every single year. And let's give them all starting opportunities. And then a bunch of them don't pan out. And that's what I'm way more on guard for with Frost. And I talked about it on our podcast a few months ago because they just did that. They brought in like 40 guys. And we were abundantly clear that there was literally no choice. That is what happens when there's a coaching change down in college football. This was a duct tape together roster just to get guys out there. If we get into next year and they're doing the same thing, that's alarm bells for me. If Frost is going to try the game of let's just add a bunch of portal guys, because what we are learning in college football as the portal era, I'm not going to say settles down because it in no way has settled down, but just as it extends and we've seen more case examples, is that's what doesn't work. The loading up on the portal every year, it just doesn't work.
It's weird that we're having this conversation. We started this with you saying like your mind changes every day on where things are and where things are going. And I'm not really settled either. It's kind of crazy with my brain, how dumb I am, that like I can look at the ratings and I can look at the way things are ranked and be like, all right, well, they're not really where I would like them to be. But then I see a guy commit and I see his tweet and be like, oh, I can't wait to watch. This guy's the best. I love him. I'm so glad. It was literally the case with Arthur Lewis today. He said, and this is kind of goes into that mold of guys that Frost is looking for and what worked last time. And again, we'll see if it works this time, but I like going back to that well, because he said when he committed and he flipped from Liberty to UCF, he said, they say I wasn't fast enough, big enough to be a P4 back. Now I got this opportunity. I'm going to make them eat their words. And that chip on your shoulder mentality, just it resonates with UCF as a brand, with UCF as a program, with UCF's fan base. And if they get these types of guys in, obviously they've got to be good and they've got to succeed. But that's where you at least see the direction that they're recruiting in.
I struggle with stuff like that because an unfortunate thing about me is, despite UCF's history and despite the team I am a fan of, I kind of, to some degree, am a stars matter type guy. Things happen, and it's college football, and unexplainable things happen, but most of the time, almost all of the time, the team that has the better players wins the game. And so I try to keep that in mind, and I'm not as big on the intangible stuff, but there kind of feels like sometimes there is something to the intangible stuff. And like you said, we talked about this earlier when he posted that tweet. I'm like, that reads like a UCF player. And it reads like a Scott Frost era UCF player. That was the brand of guys they went for. Guys who felt disrespected, guys who felt like they had a lot of potential, but they were 3 inches too short for the SEC, or they were 20 pounds too light. Adrian Killens. There you go. Adrian Killens, bunch of P4 teams, P5 at the time would have been like, that guy is tiny. No thanks. And Adrian Killens said, but did you know that I'm the fastest human who exists?
And it was him, right, who said going into that bowl game that they haven't seen speed like we have. And
then an Auburn player spun him around and tried to murder him on the field.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that you could see some of these guys that they're recruiting. You could see some of those guys saying similar things down the line.
I have to say, I don't remember how much we talked about this last week, but when Tommy Castellanos gave that interview and was like, Alabama is a fallen football program and there's nothing they can do to stop me, I was like, I understand how he would have worked at UCF. When I saw that interview, I'm like, by the way, did you read that whole interview or did you just see that one quote?
I didn't just see that one quote. I haven't read somewhere in between. I haven't read the full thing, but I've seen a lot of quotes out of it, and all of them are crazy.
Everyone jumped on the Alabama stuff. The stuff that I thought was more, I don't know if it's notable or telling. I don't know why we're dissecting FSU's quarterback at this point, was he was just Boston College sucked. He was they didn't have good players. And now that I have good players.
ACC.
They benched him. Benched him. I just, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, Tommy Castellanos, not UCF's quarterback. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not in panic mode about recruiting. I'm not thrilled about it. I do think it should be better than this. I don't want they're approaching a bottom 4 finish in the conference. And there's a lot of time left, and we'll see what happens. And I'm always, guys, if you don't follow recruiting rapidly, I am always going to be far more interested in the average player ranking than where they rank in the class, because all of these recruiting services, we go by 247 because they're the industry standard, but all of the recruiting services, the number of players in a class is heavily weighted. I'm more interested in the caliber of player they're bringing in. I'm going to keep an eye on it, but I don't think they can be what we want them to be if this recruiting class is what they're planning to do year in and year out, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think so, but I think it also, I guess, I don't want to say it depends on expectations, but when you're comparing them to the rest of the Big 12, obviously if they're 11th or 13th in the Big 12, that's the comparison. But when you look at some of the other teams that are winning the Big 12, I don't know, I haven't done this yet, but looking back at how Arizona State's recruiting was looking going for last year, or even before we mentioned Kansas State, we mentioned some of these other programs that are winning it not yearly, and I don't know that anyone, maybe other than what Texas Tech is trying to do and spending all this money, is going to ever win it yearly. But I think it doesn't have to be what it was under Gus for them to compete in the Big 12, I don't think. But I think it has to be better than this. It has to be somewhere in between. And I don't know really how to feel about it until I kind of start to see things play out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we're largely saying the same thing. And I feel like UCF fans are going to have to square with this at some point. And it's not just them. It's also Cincinnati fans and BYU fans. Well, BYU just lost their quarterbacks. They have to square with it immediately. But it's you see, a lot of the G5 ones who move up, whether it's TCU or Utah or UCF, whatever, is we got used to, like, UCF won five conference titles in 10 years, basically. Like in the 2010s, they won 5 of them. It was because they were so much better than most of the teams they played, that UCF fans got used to. This is what the standard is. It's not just being good every now and then. It is being very good every single year. And we're moving into an era in college football in a conference where UCF is in, where that is the standard for Ohio State and Georgia and the top 10, 15 programs in college football. But for pretty much all 16 teams in the Big 12, the standard is try to do enough to be solid every year, and maybe once every 3, 4, 5 years you pop off and have that really special season. If UCF got to doing that, if we got to a world where UCF it's like 8-4, 7-5, 9-3, 14-1 playoff run, back down to 7-5, 8-4, build back up, do it again, like once a class. I know some of you are hearing that and cringing, going, oh, I don't want to do all those years where they're not awesome. But like, guys, that's kind of the ceiling for all 16 of these teams, except maybe Texas Tech, since they have more money than God now. But for all the others, that's kind of the ceiling. And that's fine. I don't think, like, that's kind of how it's supposed to work at the Power 4 level. You can be a very, very successful program doing that.
Yeah, I just had the thought, and I don't want to extend this too much further, but, and this could be a topic in the future, or maybe it's just something to think about, but did this coaching change come at I don't think it came at a great time, but like, could there have been a worse time at this for this to happen? Because not necessarily from a logistical standpoint, but more from like a fan expectation standpoint, where like UCF went to a bowl game its first year in the Big 12, and obviously the bottom fell out last year, and now it's feeling like hopefully maybe they make a bowl game this year, but like that special season feels further away than ever. I don't know. It just feels like I can't expect a special season like in the next maybe 1 or 2 years, but I guess they just pop up out of nowhere. So I shouldn't expect
we weren't expecting one in 2017.
Yeah.
It's
just weird because like I'm willing to give Frost kind of a long runway to kind of get things built back up. But that is just, by that point, we will have been in the Big 12 for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years without seeing them do more than just go to a bowl game. I don't know. Yeah,
but I'm just not sure that's what's going to happen. I'm really not. And it might be, it probably will be what happens, is that they'll get 5 years in, but it's like TCU's first 3 years in the Big 12, which I know was a different era, but they went 7-5, 4-8, and they went 12-1 and won the conference. Like, it's just, and that, I guess that's a totally different situation, different era, didn't have a coaching change, whatever. But it's like, especially in this conference, it's just, I think what we've been victim to this offseason, and I'm talking about you and me, and I'm also talking about the fan base in general, is I talk about the lie of college football all the time. And the lie of college football is that everything is the way it is now, the way it is always going to be. The teams that are good are going to be good. All the teams that were good in 2024, you go read a preview magazine, unless they lost their coach or their quarterback, it is, wow, they're going to be good again. And all the teams that were bad last year was, oh, they're bad. And it never, ever works out that way. I think we're a little caught up, and it feels like things are going to be bad for such a long time because they're bad right now. So it just feels like that's what it's going to be. 1 year ago today, Arizona State was an absolute mess. They were the clear choice for last in the Big 12. That was a program who probably had the right coach in place, but man, were they not close to doing anything important, and they went to the frickin' quarterfinals of the playoffs. So it's just, and that's an extreme example, but the Big 12 is a conference of extreme examples in both directions. So I wouldn't count anything out at any point for UCF, because I just think we're a little too caught up in, they just had a bad season, so it just feels like things are going to be bad.
Well said. That was actually, now I feel better. I definitely do feel better, oddly enough.
No problem.
But it is a funny
array of positivity.
It is a funny transition into the football news, because that reminded me that I left something off, and that is that the Big 12 has announced that they are not doing a preseason coaches poll. So we will not watch UCF get picked to finish last in this 2025 preseason poll. So
can I go on a little very tiny mini rant about that?
Yes.
Because this is one of those like hot button issues that I think it's like all college football fans think one thing and I think the other thing. And what's funny is that they are literally all wrong, and it drives me crazy that they don't understand it. Every tweet I saw about that nationally and from like UCF fans on up was like, good, the preseason polls are stupid. They create biases about teams and they're bad. And you know what? Get rid of the AP poll. That's one of my favorite. People have that take all the time. It's like there shouldn't be a poll in the college football season until like late in the season or whatever. I have a couple things I have to say on that. One, There is no evidence. There has never been a shred of evidence to suggest that where a team ranks in their preseason conference poll has even a modicum of impact on the way their season plays out. And I will tell you something right now. Arizona State was a media darling last year and got a lot of attention because they were picked to finish last and were having the magical season. If there was no preseason poll, they would not have gotten all that attention. The basis of the attention was, hey, wow, look at them. They were supposed to be this and they're not. That's cool. Let's talk about that. That's one thing. The other thing I got to bring up is I'm so sick of people saying get rid of the AP poll or don't rank teams for the first few weeks of the season, because what you guys don't understand when you do that is that you think that you are benefiting the little guy. You are doing the exact opposite. If you have an opinion on the AP poll, it means that if just having an opinion on it means you are automatically in the top 10% of college football fans. The vast majority of the 100 million plus people who watch college football during the season are casual fans. When they look at their TV and they see Kansas State versus Utah, that does not mean a goddamn thing to them. And they see 21 Utah versus 17 Kansas State. Ooh, I'll check that out. If you were to get rid of rankings, they're just going to watch the 10 brands. That's literally what's going to happen. The rankings are what draws people away from the brands. You dumb people. Anyway, okay, go ahead.
All right, no, it's good. The other piece of football news, UCF announced today that their representatives for next week's Big 12 Media Days are Kelly Lawson, Nigel Kelly, Miles Montgomery, and Paul Rubel.
Kelly Lawson's one surprise there.
Yeah, not taking a quarterback, which didn't surprise me. We talked about that. I don't know if it was on the podcast or off.
It was not on the podcast. Let me ask you a question. Why is the whole fan base surprised by that?
Are they? I haven't paid attention.
All the replies to the tweet are like, oh, what does that mean that they're not taking a quarterback? They haven't named a starting quarterback.
It's because everybody saw that one freeze frame of the one video with Taven Jackson leading the stretches, and they said that's the decision made, and that's it. So
brain cells. I'm begging you.
Surprised that he's not there. But yeah, that's it. Pick that portal player. I do want to do some housekeeping on this. I was too mad last week to realize it in the moment until right after we finished recording. But Christian said the name, I think 3 times. I didn't go back and check. It
was 4 times.
4 times?
Yep.
So you said the name 4 times, and that's now, I think,
$6.
$6 into the jar, which are all you.
Yep.
Whose idea it was to do
if you told me in my heart of hearts, if you told me if you time traveled and said when I started that it's going to be $6 after a month and a half and it's going to all be you, I think I would have known.
I would. Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me at all.
I acted like it was an us problem. It was a me problem. But anyway, pick that portal player.
I have such a bad taste in my mouth after last week. I'm not excited. I don't trust you anymore.
Where that was mean last week. That was admittedly really mean last week.
Very mean.
But pick that. You just went silent too. Like the end of the podcast was like dead air. You were so.
I didn't know what to say.
I thought it might be the end of the podcast. Pick that portal player. If you are new here, it is our weekly segment where I give Bailey 3 stats about a player who transferred to UCF via the portal, and he has to guess who that player was. Bailey, are you ready for your 3 stats?
Sure.
This player transferred in from an ACC school, appeared in 38 games for UCF, caught 61 balls for 720 yards across those 38 games.
Oh, so an ACC school.
Yep. Which now these days there are like 17 of them. But I will tell you, it's a legacy ACC school that did not join in this recent wave. Yes.
How many catches?
61 catches.
61 catches for 720 yards.
Yep. That's over 38 games.
38 games?
Yeah.
I think I'm cooked here, unfortunately. Everybody's screaming at the, I don't know, I would say radio. It's not.
Yeah, everyone's in their car radio just trying to tune in.
2004 anymore. I want to come up with a guess, but I don't want to sit here until 7:30 p.m. Let me do this. I just am blanking on all the ACC teams that exist right now.
Do you want me to go down? Do you want me to name the ACC? I feel like you got to give a guess, even if
I do, but I can't muster one up.
You want me to name some ACC teams for you real quick?
I guess.
I'm going to name them alphabetically, so you're not going to learn anything from this.
Okay.
Boston College, Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, North Carolina, NC State.
You're going so fast.
Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest.
Oh gosh. I want to say he's from Virginia.
Okay. Which Virginia? The Cavaliers?
Yes, not Virginia Tech. Not my Virginia Tech Hokies. Virginia. I think there was. Is this Amari Johnson?
Wrong. This is not Amari Johnson. You want to know something awesome, though? They did come from Virginia.
I knew there was. I knew because I was thinking of you. You did Ryan Swoboda a couple weeks ago, right?
I did.
And I knew that there was another Virginia transfer. I just could not remember who it was.
You ready for it?
Sure, I guess. Whatever.
RJ Harvey.
Oh, you jerk. I'm done with this. I'm over this a lot.
I gave you everything you needed.
No, you didn't.
You were so close. I thought you were going to put it together for a second because when you started thinking about the games played versus the catches, I thought you were going to get there, but
no.
It's tough. How you feeling?
Like you. I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't like this segment. I'm not even sure I like the podcast. I enjoyed talking to Eric DeSalvo, and I'm considering just sending him a link every week and just talking to him for an hour, not recording it, and then that's it.
Can't wait for next week. People go listen to the pod. I'm just gone. It's like
you're actively pushing me to the end of wanting to do this podcast anymore.
Well, if you were listening and you got that, congrats.
If you're listening and you got that, you're just a jerk.
Oh, Bailey's getting angry at the listeners now.
Yeah, you guys suck.
I may have $6 in the swear jar, but I also have Bailey's mental health in the palm of my hand. So what can you do?
You're never mind. Can't say that on the podcast. Let's get out of here. We will be back next week with episode 275, which I guess every 25 episodes to me feels like some big milestone. 275 feels like a big number.
That does feel like a big number.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with 275. I guess. Until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCA Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us. And thank you, Eric DeSalvo, for joining us. I'm mad at myself for giving Christian a plug there for his Twitter account after what he just did to me. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye, everybody.